As you just heard, my name is Arun Saigal, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Thunkable. I graduated with an AI degree from MIT, my bachelor's and master's, and this was, maybe you can tell, a few years, thanks to these grays, before all of this generative AI stuff. So been thinking about AI and how it impacts education for a long time. I've always been very passionate about democratizing technology, making technology use available to everybody, but making software and technology creation available to everybody. It's a whole nother level of access and is ever more important in our ever-changing world today. Separately, I'm a symphony conductor and a freestyle rapper, which is an important thing to point out. If you all are here Monday morning, I will be opening the show on Monday with a little freestyle about the future of education. So don't miss that at, I think, 9:30 a.m. right here. Now, before we go further, just a quick, what is Thunkable? How many of you here are familiar with MIT Scratch, MIT App Inventor, or Thunkable? Hands, hands, hands. All right, cool, about 50% of y'all. So my work began working on how do you make it easy for anybody, including kids, to build software. And so early in my career, I started working on a product called Scratch, which was the first kind of visual drag and drop blocks tool to build any kind of app. From that, we took it to building mobile apps, and now we made Thunkable. Thunkable is a visual development or no-code platform to build powerful, native mobile apps. That's iOS apps, Android apps, and web apps. With our blocks-based drag and drop programming interface, Thunkable has been on the forefront of no-code development for nearly a decade. Now you can see right here what we have is on the left side in this bottom image, someone writing code, and then on the right side, visual programming blocks that fit together. And that's what we do with Thunkable. We take the complicated syntax, et cetera, and get rid of all of that, and make it easy to use blocks-based programming to focus on the most important parts when it comes to software development. The creativity, the logic, the ideas, and less about where does my semicolon go, or do I have 2 spaces here or 4 spaces here. Now, since our inception in 2016, there have been more than 10 million apps created by 4 million lifelong learners in 184 countries. This should tell you how impactful mobile app development is and how impactful blocks-based no-code visual development is. But how many of these people would have built an app if they needed to know how to code? The answer is a very small number of them, because a small number of them were software engineers, but most of them were folks who didn't know how to code before. But this is about so much more than the numbers and the statistics. It's about accessibility of technology creation. How many of you here have heard or have said before, if only there was an app for that? Anybody? I'm seeing chuckles and almost every hand, so that's pretty good. But why wasn't there an app for that? Why didn't you create it? Why didn't someone else create it? A lack of knowledge? A lack of time, money, resources? It was something that kept the mobile app development out of reach. And that leads us to the beginning of Thunkable. The idea that technology, once reserved for the elite few, should be accessible to all. And again, I don't just mean having access to technology, which is so important, but I mean having the access to create the technology and create the future we live in, right? There are so many different apps for food delivery. Why? Because developers think, hey, I need food delivered, I should make an app for that. But there are so many problems in the world that have gone unsolved. And why is that? It's because the folks who have the creative ideas and have the solutions don't necessarily have the means to develop those solutions. And we at Thunkable believe that the power to shape our digital future should rest in the hands of as many individuals as possible, not just that privileged few. We believe in a world where coding is not just a barrier, but a bridge, a tool that empowers people from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and experiences to express themselves, innovate, and change the world. Visual development does not equal no logic, even though I said no code. It's important to understand computational thinking and logic in the programming world, but focus on those things, focus on the creativity, and not, again, worrying about all the syntax and other things that you need to do when you learn to code. I remember the first time I learned to code, I was writing Java, and I worked so hard to get to system.out.println hello world. I spent all this time. First, I had to create I had to download an IDE, an integrated development environment. I didn't know what that was. Then I had to download all this other software. And it became really hard to actually start building. Right then, I finally started learning to code, and I had to worry about what is this console thing and what is a semicolon and all that stuff. And none of that was relevant to the programming logic. And so with visual development, we make it easy to comprehend what's going on. If you remember those drag and drop blocks you saw, if the blocks fit together, then things will work. It'll compile. And if they don't, it won't. Straightforward, right? The development process is simplified. You don't need to download all these pieces of software now. You can just, in our case, go to thunkable.com and start building, or with any of these other visual development tools, have the tools ready at your fingertips so you can start building immediately. You get firsthand experience. Now, that statement I was making about when I first learned Java, I put in all this work to spit out a thing that said hello world. And what was the use of that? Not too much. I couldn't do anything with that hello world. But with a tool like Thunkable, you can actually see an app in your hands within a couple of minutes. And finally, these tools are made for collaboration and teamwork, so it's not a lonely process. And that allows today's students to build incredible apps, like an app to find the nearest ice cream parlor around you. Or in these last two screens, an app to help you quiz yourself on math, on state capitals, things like that. Or something like this second screen, which is an app to create your own storybook. And so as you're building your storybook, you can plug into GenAI and say, hey, today I went to fill in the blank, the mall. And now you can use ChatGPT to actually spit out a picture and some more text and things like that. And now, all of a sudden, you're creating these incredible stories using AI. And that allows today's students to be tomorrow's entrepreneurs. So on the point of AI, now that we've talked about visual development, what can we do to take this even further? And the answer, of course, is using AI. And there's two ways to do this. AI to help you build your apps, and visual development to help you build your AIs. Now, the first part is about using AI to help you get faster, smarter, better. So how can you use AI to help you build your apps? Well, by being AI-powered, you can build faster. AI can be integrated into the whole process of mobile app development. So now maybe you have an idea. You say, hey, I want an image. I could go Google it, and I could download it, and I could look up if the license is appropriate, or I can just say, hey, generate an image of pink roses. Boom. AI to help you build faster. Next up is AI to help you automate repetitive tasks. There are a lot of tasks kids learn when you're programming that you then repeatedly do. But what if you could actually get help to say, hey, I want to do this task. AI, can you go repeat this task for me? So now that I've done the creative and the logical part to it, the repetitive part can be handed off to the AI. And this, of course, leads to accelerated innovation, because now people can build smarter, better, and faster. The other fun part is having a conversational bot that you can actually talk to, because building software in the early days is lonely. That's why there's this term pair programming, where you get to work with each other. But by having natural conversation bots, you can say, hey, AI bot, what if this app was a purple color scheme instead of a red color scheme? And the AI could say, good idea. Here's what it would look like. You can say, wow, I like that. I'm going to accept that and move forward. Right? So all of a sudden you can have natural conversation to actually help you build your apps. So now I'm going to give you a quick visual example of what's actually going on. This, we're jumping right into it, is the Thunkable platform. And you can see, I'll walk you through this in a moment, but right now if you focus on the center screen, what's going on? First, someone wanted help generating text. So what do? We typed in some text and said, generate me text, and we got a lush medley of blooming roses. Then we wanted to generate an image. Rather than for downloading the image from Google and figuring it out, we just type in pink rose bouquet. Hey, this one looks good. And now we have it in our app. And then we say, hey, well, I actually want a login screen to match this, but again, the login screen is something people have done before, so maybe I'll just type into the AI, can you give me a pink and gray login screen so it'll match my visual palette? Boom, we can generate a login screen, but it's a little off, so now I can go to the properties over here and say, hey, can we change the height and the width? We do that, and boom, just like that, you've actually been able to design your app and put in words in whatever, that was about 45 seconds, right? That's incredible. And as you can see here, this is what Thunkable roughly looks like, the design part. On the left side, you can choose your components, buttons, labels, images. Then in the middle, you see your different app development screens. Then on the right side, you can actually go ahead and change properties. Now, the second part that's really cool is visual development to help you build AI. As I talked about, generating and creating technology is so important. And there's this statement, there will be those who make the AIs and those who are controlled by the AIs. Now, I think that's a little bit of a broad, harsh statement, but it is important that people actually know how to create these AIs. And the joys of visual development is allowing you to do just that. Why? Because visual development lowers the barrier to AI. And I'm not just talking about lowering the barrier to using ChatGPT or something. Multiple folks know how to do that. But to developing with that, to plugging into AI APIs. Right? So what it allows you to do is pull together pre-built AIs. Think about image and image recognition and speech-to-text, text-to-speech, and of course, generative AI things, putting it all together. And by doing that, you can supercharge a simple app. So what does the future look like? The future, in my mind, looks like the combination of AI and no code. It's not just AI or no code, but it's combining them together. And this, I think, will demonstrate just that. This is Nathan Burley. He learned how to use Thunkable and said, and then he went and got a job. And his job was to help repair scientific equipment that you might have in the classroom. Think about a spectrometer or some high-end scientific lab equipment, microscopes, things like that. Well, fixing this equipment was really hard, so Nathan got this headset, a RealWear Navigator 5000, put it on his head, and said, I'm gonna build an AI assistant, so I don't need to get this equipment mailed back to me, but instead, I can just show up and fix it on site. He then decided, hey, I'm gonna build an app. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make an app that I can ask any question to that's trained on my manuals. So the question I could ask is, hey, what's the weather today? But the question I could also ask is, hey, how do I fix this machine where this part is broken? And oh, by the way, I'll send you a photo. So he uses his headset, takes a photo, asks the AI what to do. He uses speech to text. Then it takes that text, asks the question, gets a result, text to speeches, and talks back to him. And all of a sudden, from a week-long process to shipping a heavy piece of equipment back to headquarters, he's able to go on site and take a week's worth of work and turn it into about 3 hours. And he's able to actually get all these funny integers and whatever and get real results. And his whole process and company has been turned around thanks to the fact that he learned Thunkable and was able to do that. So, with all of that, I want to leave you with the final question. And the question is, what will we build together? I want to leave you with a challenge and an invitation. The challenge is to challenge the status quo. To not believe that people should be able to say, oh, well, I'm not an engineer, I can't do that. Everyone should be able to create AIs. Everyone should be able to use AIs that should be made accessible to all, and we should be able to build our future together. So the challenge is to challenge the status quo, and the invitation is to join me and join us in helping us build this future where everyone, through the power of visual development and AI, can create our future together. Thank you so much. And if you want to see more, check out thunkable.com, and I hope I'll see you Monday morning. Be well.